Coming up in today's episode.
Yes, in the end we did both, but yes, first impressions was definitely not widely spoken, but the second impression is very busy. A lot of people, and my third impression is that it is extremely cheap, even cheaper than what we had in the northern part of Thailand. It is really that cheap. And then from there on we wanted to go to the Hoi An bridge, which is the famous part of it, but there were absolutely no taxis available, so we had to start walking. So it took us about a 30 minutes walk, I think. We were a bit confused at one stage, but we finally got there and it was beautiful. It seriously was beautiful. So this is the reason you basically come to Hoi An.
We're Quentin and VNA, two guys trying to visit 40 countries before we turn 40. We're taking the world on by trying to explore different countries, cultures, food, and by being as adventurous as possible. We decided to film all of this for our future selves to look back on for one day when we are older. So let's go on a Kiwi travel adventure.
Hi future Quentin!
And hi future VNA.
And to all our friends and family watching, and today we are taking you to Vietnam, Hanoi! So this was a new country, so needless to say we were extremely excited. We arrived there with Asia, and then we obviously needed to quickly sort out all the visas and stuff, but when we got through we took a taxi to Hanoi itself to go to our accommodation.
Just arrived in Vietnam, we've checked into our hotel room and we've got the autumn room, so let's check it out. Welcome to our autumn pad, and we've got a little desk section down here with the fan, and over there television, storage, and a fridge, very important, and over there this decoration, and then here you will find our very interesting shower and bathroom. Yes, you can shower while you're on the toilet. And then right behind us we have our beautiful view. And then right over here we have our beautiful view.
10 seconds later.
And over here we have our beautiful view. And over here we have a beautiful view. Come outside.
Typical Vietnam. We are in the hustle and bustle of everything in Vietnam. And directly after that, we then did our very own street food tour. Okay, we are here and we have just arrived in Vietnam, so we have decided to start off with a food tour, our very own. And this place came highly recommended for this, which is Banh Bo. What do you call it? Banh Bo Nam Bo. So this is one of the dishes that they say we must have. So here we go. Vienna is the guinea pig as always. So nice. Oh.
I'll take another one.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's do this, y'all. Oh yes, this is our little place to be eating. This is the bottom level, so we're sitting on the ground somehow. So it's basically got like noodles, rice noodles, and then some beef, and then some, I don't know what you call this, but yeah, let's try this. So this was highly recommended as one of the best foods.
It is one of the best. We'll be eating here again tomorrow. So we are now at our third stop and we are having steamed rice pancakes with pork. I don't know what this is, it looks like a broth, but let's try it. Hopefully there's no egg in. It's a choice.
So we are having what they call a bun. This is apparently also very famous, and this is the chocolate version. Hot. But very nice. It's literally like a bun, a normal bun. What's chocolate in it? So we are sitting in a cafe Jiang. So this is apparently one of the best egg coffees. That's what we're here to try, and it's also one of the first actually in Hanoi. One of the first cafes to make it. So we thought we'll try out the original. So this is that. I'm not gonna lie, we are sitting on very short stools.
We're sitting on the floor.
So I'm not gonna lie, not the very comfortable chairs, but okay. Let's try this, and this is what it tastes like. So egg coffee. Let's try this.
Quentin's got the hot one and I've got the iced one.
Oh my word. Oh,
Another one.
this is like a sweet caramelish. It's white egg yolk, but it's like
Tastes like marshmallow.
yeah, it's like
Like a marshmallow.
marshmallow caramel kind of. Let's try the coffee itself.
Yeah, the coffee's at the bottom. Way at the bottom.
Very strong. Very nice. Mixes well together. That's very strong. And then we just started walking back towards our hotel, but it was crazy busy. Like, in crazy is not even the word. There is so many people, like literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the roads. There's literally nobody with their scooters or anything. You can't. That's impossible. It's just a lot of people walking around, and while you are walking around, you get these random street performers all over with like advertising their little theaters and so on, just literally randomly on the street. So that was quite interesting and really enjoyed that. And then we just headed back to our hotel.
For our next day, our very first stop was the St. Joseph's Cathedral, which was a beautiful replica of the Notre Dame in Paris, France. And you could clearly see the French influence within the building. On the church complex itself, there were two gift shops on the side and these beautiful murals. The one painting was of the three wise men and the Bethlehem star, and the other one was a depiction of the Last Supper. When we got inside the church, it was beautiful, like any Catholic church. It really was quite wonderful, and that was the first time that I actually prayed again in a Catholic church since Corona. And it was also the church that had a statue of my namesake, St. John Vianney. So that was quite wonderful to experience that. It was time for them to close, so we were just, they allowed us to finish up and pray, and then we left and we went down to Tran Street. This was quite wonderful to experience it. As we arrived to Tran Street, normally you must wait for someone to somehow help you get in, but there was one of the restaurant owners on his way in and he asked, would you guys like to go through? And we said yes, and he took us to his restaurant, which was the perfect spot for us to sit. We were upstairs. It was this beautiful terrace overlooking the train tracks and the other restaurants on the other side. There we had this wonderful experience of food and coffee. The coffee we had was again the egg coffee. We also tried the coconut coffee for the very first time, and the milk coffee, which was condensed milk with coffee. So that was quite wonderful. And we had a banh mi again, which was again quite lovely. Every time we had banh mi, it really just topped the previous one. And we finally tried something which we wanted to do on the food tour the previous night, but we had it here, which was the pho.
So we are having the famous pho. Here we go. So it's like a broth, noodle soup kind of a thing. So let's try. This is our first one. It might be good. It might be a flop. Let's see. Oh, it's good.
It's nice.
It's very light.
Yeah, very, very light.
Soft.
After having the coffee and lunch, we waited for the train and it finally arrived. Quinton had a view from the top and I had a view from the bottom, and it was really quite exciting to have the train pass by and just to have that experience with every other tourist that was there. It was just quite so fun and exciting. It was like an adventurous thing to do.
Yes, and then from there on we took a boat and then we went to Hoan Kiem Lake. Now this is one of the must-do things in Vietnam which we really wanted to do, and this is basically the famous red bridge that you always see everywhere. It's also on one of the money notes that you see, which was really awesome. So it's this beautiful red bridge which leads to an island, and on the island itself is a temple, a Chinese temple again. But then something happened which we really did not expect, and that is we saw this huge tortoise. So at first we just thought, okay, this is weird. But then it came about, there is this legend about this tortoise. So he was basically in this lake, because obviously this island is in the middle of the lake. And the short story of it is basically that he gave one of his nails to one of the generals, and the generals then turned into a sword, and he then used the sword basically in a war, and then they won the war, and then he needed to give that back as a thank you back to the tortoise, and this is apparently the actual tortoise. So yes, we just roamed around this Chinese temple, and it was really interesting to see how they have a different form of Buddhism basically, but a Chinese version of that. So, and then from there on we walked to another famous spot which is also on one of the notes, which is the Thap Rua, which is also just basically the sort of a temple which is in the middle of the lake itself. You can't physically get there, unfortunately, but it was beautiful to see. And then from there on we strolled again and we went to the water puppet theater. It's called the Tang Long Theater, and this is basically this big house sort of a thing which is on the inside of the theater, and then they've filled it up with water, and then it's basically these water puppets that they use from behind to basically maneuver the puppets, and they dance in the water, if you will, and they tell different stories of which one was, and including, like I said, the one about the tortoise and the legend of the Hoan Kiem Lake, which was really interesting. So this is one of the big tourist things to do, so really loved this. Us as theater lovers, it was interesting to see that.
After our theater experience, we went and searched for dinner. Throughout our entire time in Hanoi, we've always seen these beautiful restaurants which would be 2 or 3 stories tall, the family living in the upper part, and then the lower part would be converted into this funky restaurant cafe. So we found one, and the first thing we tried was the Hanoi beer.
So as always, when we are in a new country, we have to try a new beer. This is Hanoi beer, so let's try that now. Costs a light, but just lighter. Not bad. It's actually nice. Almost like Bali. Very, very, very nice.
And our food that we tried here was the different types of spring rolls that they had. The traditional fried spring roll, the fermented rice spring roll, and the raw spring roll. We had these. This was really a wonderful experience, but it was cut short because shortly after our food arrived, there was some domestic violence. My father just went wild, throwing around things, knife and everything. So the staff was the entire family and the children. So everyone just got involved and they were highly upset. So that was quite sad to see. But what we've also observed is that all over, everyone working on the streets or in these family-owned restaurant cafes, the children would form part of the staff. So directly after school, children would pop in and start with their activities, and they'll be busy till late in the evening serving people. So it was quite interesting to see the way of life of the people in Hanoi. After that, we went back home. And the next day, our very, very first visit was the Temple of Literature. This was a Sunday, so it was quite packed, so we didn't go inside because all of the families would normally take their children there on the weekends and specifically Sundays to receive blessings so that they may do good within the studies or exams or in school life in general. After that, we just went through the busy roads throughout Hanoi, and what was very, very interesting to see is that there was no road safety or road rules being applied by anyone. If you want to drive, drive. If you want to walk, walk. And it is quite nerve-wracking to cross a road, but after a while you do get used to that. On our way to view the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, we passed by this beautiful tower, which was part of the ancient and very first buildings within Hanoi, and we also saw the beautiful parliament building that they had there just in front of the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. As we arrived in the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, it was really quite interesting to see how many security checks you had to go through before you could get in. Security guards were everywhere, making sure that everyone follows the rules, making sure that people walk on specific areas, making sure that the clothing that people wear were very respectful. We saw the very beautiful one pillar pagoda, which was just absolutely wonderful. It was just so lovely to see it in person, so that was quite wonderful. The mausoleum itself was beautiful to see. We were unable to go inside because unfortunately Ho Chi Minh was not there because it was time for him to get a new renovation and a makeup, so he was being balsamed within Russia.
So yes, it was very interesting to see because Ho Chi Minh is basically like the Nelson Mandela of Vietnam, and he's basically on all of the notes and everything, money as well, so that's quite interesting to see. And then from there on we walked towards the Tran Quoc Pagoda. Now it was quite a walk, it was about a 20-minute walk, but on our way there saw another Chinese temple, and then from there on we actually stopped at something which we were very thankful for, which is Highlands Coffee. And Highlands Coffee is basically like the Starbucks, if you will, of Vietnam, but the coffee is absolutely incredible. We also tasted their mini Banh Mi's for the first time, which was so cheap. It was like 14 Rand for one, so Vietnam in general very cheap. And then we went to the Tran Quoc Pagoda, which is something also very famous to do in the whole of Vietnam. So it's basically this pagoda or this big pillar, and inside of it you see all the various different Buddhas that have been placed in it. So we did go inside as well. It was very cool to see it from up close, difficult to take photos of because it is so big, but it was interesting to see. It's also like on a little island with surrounded by a lake, and then from there on we took a boat to go back to the old quarter of Hanoi. So when we arrived there, we literally stumbled upon this extremely cute cafe. It's called the Note Cafe. So it is literally plastered all over with notes. So they literally have these baskets with notes in, and you can write a little note and then you can paste it. It's like a sticker. You can paste it literally anywhere, on the walls, on the roof, on the lights, on the ceiling, wherever you want, you can paste it. So we wrote little notes and we also pasted it there. From there on, we literally just went for coffee just down the street from where our accommodation was, which was absolutely lovely. We are actually so sad that we only discovered that place so late, but really very nice. We had some coconut coffee there and all of the other coffees that they have as well, condensed milk and egg coffee and all of it. And then the next day,
back to the airport where we would take via jet to our next destination, but there was a 2-hour delay and no one was able to give out any information whatsoever, but the Vietnamese females made sure that their voices were heard.
Yes, in the end we did both, but yes, first impressions was definitely not widely spoken, but the second impression is very busy. A lot of people, and my third impression was that it is extremely cheap, even cheaper than what we had in the northern part of Thailand. It is really that cheap. So after our disastrous day at the airport, we finally arrived in Da Nang, and then we took a taxi from there, about a 30-minute taxi drive to our accommodation.
Welcome guys, this is apartment number 3. Let's come in. This is the main bedroom, and then if you just walk this way, we have a beautiful view of everything. We'll be having our breakfast there in the morning. And over here is the bathroom. Storage space, fridge stacked with water, and then voila, waterfall shower with a beautiful view. Just follow me.
And then from there on, we wanted to go to the Hoi An bridge, which is the famous part of it, but there were absolutely no taxis available, so we had to start walking. So it took us about a 30-minute walk, I think. We were a bit confused at one stage, but we finally got there, and it was beautiful. It seriously was beautiful. So this is the reason you basically come to Hoi An. It's just this picturesque, magical place with all of these boats and the lanterns everywhere. It is absolutely stunning. So this is literally what you go for, is the atmosphere of this whole place, because this is what it looks like at night. It is absolutely beautiful. We went for a quick dinner, which was also very interesting, especially Vietnamese part, and then from there on we quickly took some photos, obviously, of all the lanterns which you get everywhere, and everybody's just in this happy mood and atmosphere because all of the tourists come here in the evening. Most of them stay in Da Nang during the day, and then they just come here for a night visit trip, but we decided to stay. So obviously at night it is absolutely picturesque with all of these lanterns, and we also bought some of it for ourselves, but during the day it is a completely different story.
So the next day we initially planned to go to the Golden Bridge, but this was far away and it was extremely costly, so we decided, okay, let's just spend the day in Hoi An to try and see what the vibe is like throughout the day. So as we made it to the main hub, we passed one of the very first temples, Chinese temples that they had there, which was really incredibly beautiful to see. And we had breakfast thereafter, where we had egg coffee again, coconut coffee, spring rolls, and of course the white rose, which is a traditional dish from Hoi An, and it was just incredible. It was a wonderful breakfast and a start to the day. After that, we just continued exploring these beautifully yellow painted streets. All the buildings, all of them are this orangey yellow color, and it was just so wonderful that you are transported to this unique place, and the lanterns that's everywhere. So it was just so wonderful and peaceful going through all of these streets of Hoi An. We then discovered the very first Chinese temple that they have in Hoi An.
And then from there on, we literally stumbled across this market where they sell like some of these souvenirs and so on. And then from there on, it literally led into this fresh produce part, which Vietnam was not impressed with at all because of all the smells. But that was quite interesting. From there on, we came out and we literally saw the river again with all of the boats, which was really beautiful to see. And then something cool happened. So this is what happens basically in Hoi An and the entire Vietnam. You see these ladies with their famous hats together with obviously these things that they sell, with this thing that they carry with these things hanging off them.
A stick with two baskets.
A stick with two baskets with it hanging off there, and you see it everywhere. And I told Vietnam I would actually like to put that hat on and walk around with it like a typical tourist, and I got to do it, which I was very happy with, especially after the disaster with the Golden Gate and Golden Bridge that we couldn't get to. But yeah, that was really the moment where it lit up for me the whole day. So that was beautiful. And then we just walked across along the streets again, like Vianney said, with all of these yellow painted colors and so on, which was really tranquil, because during the day, like I said, there's not a lot of tourists like in at all. All of them are in Da Nang. None of them are here at night. The people only come at night. So yes, it was very hot. So we went to the Hoi An bridge again just to go and grab a drink there, a Coke. And then from there on, we went to the famous Highlands, obviously coffee, which we started to love so much. Also had a quick bite there and a Banh Mi.
As we made our way back to the hotel, we wanted to see the famous and the main reason why everyone comes to Hoi An, the Japanese bridge, which was closed for renovation.
So it was very disappointing to see, because it's like one of the most famous things to do, because it's also on one of their notes as well, so we couldn't see it at all. So yeah, but it was hot again, so thereafter we got some ice cream first, the rolled ice cream, which was quite nice, and then we headed to our hotel for a quick dip because it was so hot. So this was really welcoming, so that was so lovely and refreshing.
After our cool down at our accommodation, we went back to the main hub, and this time we went a little bit early because they told us that the lights will go on at 6 and we wanted to see what happens at 6 o'clock. So we had this beautiful restaurant overlooking the bridge with the boats, with the beautiful lanterns on the opposite side of the main hub. So it was just so wonderful sitting there and experiencing these beautiful, beautiful elements of the people selling their different snacks, which I had a lot of. And then it was time for the lights to come on, and that was the time that we took our boat cruise. It was incredible. It was so wonderful being on the boat. It was wonderful getting ready to make our wishes and to set free our lanterns, and as the sun went down, all the boat's lights came up, and it was just a magical array of lights and just happy people. It really was magical and fairy tale like, so we really enjoyed that. After that,
because the sun was also setting, which was so beautiful.
It really was
to see.
incredible.
It was the most beautiful sunset I think I've ever seen.
It really was beautiful. After that, we just took a while. We got off the boat and we just took everything in, and we just watched everything again until the sun was completely down, and then we went on a street food tour, which was just amazing. And we ended it off with the best banh mi in Vietnam.
So yes, that banh mi was absolutely awesome. It was literally this lady on the side of the road. We were again sitting on those very small stools which you get throughout Vietnam, which brings me to the conclusion, actually, they don't really have bigger chairs. Where you get bigger chairs is where you will get bigger prices as well, basically, for tourists, because they know tourists want to sit on proper chairs. So yes, everything small chairs, everything is cheap. It really was absolutely awesome. I'm glad we did the middle part of Vietnam, which is Hoi An, and then obviously the northern part, which is Hanoi. I'm so glad we did that, because that's what people said is the most traditional part. Apparently the south, where Ho Chi Minh City is a lot more urban. So we are really glad that we did this and that we did it at the right time. But I think in general it was awesome. Their coffee is really amazing. I think there's a reason why they're second biggest export of coffee in the world. The coffee really is amazing. Highlands coffee, so glad we stumbled upon that. The food was really amazing. The banh mi's most particular. I didn't really like the other food, to be honest, in terms of the pho and so on, because everything is a very almost soup based, very water soup based. So if you like brothy kind of things, then that's definitely for you. But if you like more bread things, then definitely the banh mi's, which were absolutely awesome, but particularly the pork ones as well.
Yes, it really was an amazing experience. We went there at the perfect time, because you can see it's gonna get packed soon. But it was just a wonderful experience, and it was really a beautiful surprise, because we never wanted to go to Vietnam, and this experience just made Vietnam a delightful country and a place that we definitely would go to again in a few years' time, just to see what the scene is like there. And it was, Highlands was the greatest highlight, because it became the thing that we did there, and just the lanterns alone was really a beautiful part of the beautiful experience of Vietnam. We really enjoyed it. It really was super amazing.
And this is everything despite it being a heavy communist country, because believe me, it is. There's certain things you can't do. So this brings us to the end of this part of Vietnam, but we were excited because we are going to our next country, which is in Laos, and we are going to Vientiane!
Next time on Kiwi Travel Adventures.
I must say, it is a small country, number one. You don't get a lot of international kind of things. Even in Vientiane, where we went, which is actually like the biggest out of the entire Laos, it's really not a big country, but that made everything so affordable. It really is incredibly cheap.